to our first video for Juniper Farms. We are a backyard farm located in the middle of Marietta, California. For you who are interested, we are located in Zone 9B for growing purposes. Today I thought I would just kind of go over how we got started, some of the materials that we use, and what was the reason for why we decided to grow our own. First, as you can see, we have 3 4x6 boxes, and all of that totals 81 square feet of growing area. Plus, we do also have a large barrel that we are currently growing potatoes in, both russet and red potatoes. One of the things I'd like to say first is the reason we differentiate instead of saying garden and I say farm is because simply to me gardening is a hobby and farming is a way of life. And for us wanting to get away from store-bought produce into growing our own was a huge impetus for what you see here. Our boxes here are 4x6 and they are constructed out of common pine board. Now you can find that in any one of your local Home Depots, Lowe's, that kind of thing. Also, the bottom, which you can't see because we've already planted, has a 1/2 inch diameter hardware cloth that is attached all the way around. Now, I got that idea from California Gardens. That's a YouTube channel, and I will put a link in the description so you can check him out. He mentioned that having the hardware cloth would be a good way to make sure that moles and critters and other digging creatures wouldn't be able to come up from behind the bottom and eat your vegetables, or fruits in our case. So really that is it. And then of course you want a good quality soil to start with. Now we used Kellogg's raised bed potting soil because it already had bat guano, worm castings, so I didn't have to mix any of that up. And then really the next part of square foot is making sure that you have your square feet so that you know the diameter and how many plants will go into each square foot, which is something we'll get into in later videos. Now we are considered a backyard farm. As you can see, we have backyard. We do have some citruses growing, both orange, lemon, orange, and lime, pardon me. And then, of course, the potatoes that I spoke of earlier. Ideally, what we would like to get to is having this entire area covered with raised boxes so that we have more food security and, just as a way to have fun, actually. Who doesn't want to come outside and pick their own tomatoes? Speaking of which, we're going to go really quickly over what we have planted currently right now. One of the benefits of square foot gardening is that in each square you can pretty much plant anything you want. And it doesn't have to be the rows and rows and thinning out and spacing. So here we have our strawberries. Now if you follow us on our Facebook page, you'll notice this is the strawberries that I was very excited had started to bear fruit, and unfortunately that fruit was promptly eaten by some local animals. So we're going to find a way to keep them from doing that in the future. If we come down here, you'll see that we have some cantaloupe growing. Some more strawberries of the same variety. We have a beefsteak tomato. It's an heirloom plant from Heinz. Now some of these plants were actually pre-bought and some are seedlings. This one is a pre-bought from Bonnie Plants and is actually growing quite well. I'm very proud of it. Of course you have to have your quick crops, radishes. I particularly love radishes. So we do have some radishes. They'll be ready to harvest, I'm thinking, about next week. We have some icebox watermelon growing here. And it is amazing to think that you can actually grow a whole watermelon in a square foot. But that's true, you actually can. And once the radishes next to it have been harvested, we'll be starting our pumpkins for fall. We have a different type of strawberry plant here. It bears fruit at a different time, so that'll be nice for later fall harvest of strawberries for preserves. This one, I'll be honest, I don't know what's in here. And the reason is my kids planted this one, which is good to get your kids involved, but then you end up with kind of a square of Lord knows what's in there. That's what's happening here as well. But if you look over here, these are our pole beans, our pole green beans, and they're really starting to take some shape. And right next to them is our green pepper plants, bell peppers I should say. And you can see if you look close that they're starting to bud. We have over here, once you get over here, we do have our one cucumber plant. And as you can see, while it did fall over, it is still attached to the root center and is still growing. It's starting to vine out, and I'm hoping that that will continue to be strong and bear some pickling cucumbers later in the season. This one here is actually another cantaloupe, and then this is our other beefsteak tomato, and if you can look back here, you can see it's actually starting to flower, which is a good indicator to me that we're probably going to start to see some fruit on it fairly soon. Our previous box we planted about a week after we moved in. This one was planted only about a week ago, so there is very little growth, but what is happening is we're starting to see some sprouts. We do have some more cantaloupe here, some green beans. Again, the square foot method means that each square can be a completely different crop, and that's good for high yield plants. Plus, every time you harvest a square, you can immediately replant it. So that is a benefit, especially in small areas like we have here. Now, our third box over here is just now starting to erupt. As you can see there at the end, we have 3 plants of zucchini. We have some spinach growing, but you can kind of barely see it. And we actually did plant corn. Now we've planted 44 stalks of corn, and while corn is a long growing crop, the fact that it is a crop my family will eat, it is a veggie that is a favorite, makes it one that is worth planting. So this is where our start out point is. You know, we started out with the one box, and then we've gradually added, with the hopes that later we will grow more, add more boxes. The biggest thing I have noticed is making sure you plant food you're going to eat. You know, don't plant zucchini if your family isn't going to eat zucchini. There's really no point to it, unless you're going to be trading, you know, with other members of the community, which is kind of a hope for us, that we find other members of our community that is doing the same thing we are, having a little more food security and kind of getting back to growing on your own, you know. So I think this is it for our first one. Obviously, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you have any suggestions, any ideas, you know, I'm willing to learn from pretty much anyone because we are new at this. Of course, if you have any questions, I think I already said that. Like I said, we're kind of new at this. But, you know, thank you, and until next time.